SMD Law is the official law firm of the Spartan Nation. Check them out on the interwebs at smdalaw.com or at 866-529-3537. No matter where you are in the state of Michigan, Upper Peninsula, Lower Peninsula, it doesn't matter. They have an office near you. So whether you need to send a letter to an annoying neighbor, or you're a criminal and you need defense, maybe you just have problems with elder law, check them out, smdalaw.com today. The official law firm of the Spartan Nation. Call them first, then you act.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back, Spartan Nation. We now bring in Coach Chuck Grenier, who joins us throughout the football and basketball season every week with our good, bad, and unsure, and sometimes ugly. Michigan State falls to Michigan 21-7. There is no shame to lose to the University of Michigan. That's a good football team. There's no shame to lose to the Ohio State or Penn State even. Those are good football teams. But I think there is something wrong when you beat yourself. Now, I want to make it very clear. I said coming into this game, Michigan had a generationally good defense, and they do. So when I say Michigan State beat themselves, I want to clarify something because I hate sore losers. I hate it when Michigan State would beat Michigan and kick their ass, and then Michigan fans would say, oh, but. There's no excuses. Michigan beat Michigan State. But what I want to say, when I'm talking about Michigan State beat themselves is, who knows if things would have been different? I believe they would have, and I believe my scouting report and prediction from the beginning, from Friday, said it. But I think Michigan State hurt themselves in winning this football game. And again, I want to make it very clear. I'm not making any excuses. Michigan won the football game, period. When you heard Michigan people say, oh, but it was a block punt. Nope, they beat you. When you hear Michigan fans say, oh, but, the rain. Nope, Michigan State beat you. So you give Michigan the credit they do. They beat you. This game will forever be recorded in your media guides and in your history as a 21-7 loss. But that said, Michigan State certainly helped them beat them. I'm going to give you an example. I knew all week that Brian Lewerke was not practicing and was injured. I knew that Rocky Lombardi was the guy they were thinking they were going to probably go with. I learned this from people on staff, players. I learned it from multiple people. And they were excited about what Lombardi was going to bring. Not because they don't like Brian. No one's saying that. But he was injured at Penn State. They knew he was injured. They knew that he could not go. They knew that he was hurting. They all knew it. And they liked some different wrinkles that Lombardi was going to bring in. And there was genuine excitement. It wasn't fear and trepidation. It was genuine excitement that what they thought Rocky would do. And just like I reported before the Northwestern game, there's some changes that have been made, and they didn't use them. They didn't do it. Late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, I was contacted by people in the program that said, hey, you can't be all mad at Dave Warner because he wanted to go with Rocky. It was D'Antonio who didn't. On Sunday night, I asked D'Antonio that. D'Antonio admitted that was true. So now we bring in Coach Grenier. Coach, I know this is called the good, the bad, the ugly. We're just going to convolute it all because almost everything from Saturday was ugly and just call it the ugly. But I want to start with, I love Mark D'Antonio. Mark D'Antonio is a personal friend of mine. I respect him. I honor him. You know that I genuinely have true emotional affection for him as a human being. But it was just a bad decision. Lombardi was never ready. I started reporting as soon as the game started. He was dinged up. I would not be shocked if we saw Rocky Lombardi because I was asked not to report it until after the game started. I did that. I honored it just like the week before at Penn State. Ugly decision. This is nobody hating on Brian Lewerke. Let me tell you, if there was anything good out of that game, it was the guts that kid showed to keep playing, but ugly that they did it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Lewerke. You meant to say Lewerke there a little bit ago, but yeah.
What did I say?
He was off. You said Lombardi wasn't ready, but it was Lewerke.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, it was Lewerke. Yeah. But his effort was gutsy and heroic. I mean, he even admitted after the game, you can go watch the video at Spartan Nation, that, yeah, he did think that they should have put Rocky in because he wasn't helping the team.
Yeah. He was off. The ball was flying on him. He was inaccurate. Receivers, when they did get open, they weren't there. The inability to run and present another problem to the Michigan defense, all of that was there. And some some disturbing things I saw during the course of the game, especially at the end of the game, when the cameras would focus on offensive players coming off the field. You saw Stewart very angry about a ball that he was partially open on, and it was high and behind him, and then you saw Lewerke coming off, and he was visibly, angrily upset. And so some of those things, and then the press conference afterwards with Warner and Warner's posture as he was sitting there, it was just, you just got the sense that there's something wrong going on here. And to put Lombardi in there on that last series that they have was not a good thing either, because what did the Spartans have to do with, I think it was under 2 minutes to go or something along that line.
2:38.
You know, 2:38 to go. And you know what's got to be done. You know, they got to be going down the field real quick and get a quick score. So, you know, this Michigan brings the house. What can you do? So, yeah, it's a strange situation going down there. If you when I coached, and that was a long time ago.
Hang on. This is Coach Chuck Grenier, a legendary prep high school and basketball coach in the state of Michigan. Okay, so when you coach,
if you couldn't go full tilt on Wednesday, you were done. And I think this is a different situation. It's a bigger stage than I ever was at. But if you couldn't play, you couldn't play, and if you couldn't practice, you can't play. And so, if you can't go, that's the way it is. And so you bring in, you know, their slogan, you know, next man in, and he's got to go in there. So you bring Lombardi in a bad situation, and first play he looks good, and then after that, you know, you got to drop back and throw, and they bring it. So, but no, you got to go with what's going to be best for the team. And Lewerke and the people that I was sitting with commented continually, he's way off. He can't throw. And so, I don't know. You just got to go with what you say you're going to do all the time, and that is next man up. And evidently they didn't want to do that. And so it was tough to watch.
Coach, I'm going to say this to you. I believe in Rocky Lombardi and Theo Day. Okay. But I'm trying to, for this week's question and answer article, man, did I get a really good question from a fan. But they said, if you're Theo Day and Rocky Lombardi, does the fact that he wouldn't play you when your quarterback is injured and can't complete a ball and can't run say that he doesn't believe in them? Now, I'm not asking you to go inside D'Antonio's head. I'm asking you, if you're one of those two, if you're one of those players, are you sitting there thinking, okay, they evidently don't believe in me?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's actually a trickle down. And you got the two backup quarterbacks ready to go, and they think they're going to get their playing time, which we've talked about numerous times. You got to have the reps to be ready to get in there in case something like, obviously, this has happened. And then you've got your players on field. You know, they're going to be busting their backs trying to do the best they can and to win this football game. And then you don't start somebody that physically can't perform at that time. It does not give you the best chance to win. What does that say to the players on the field and on the sidelines in the locker room? So it's a real trickle down at that time. And there's going to be, I know one of the things that I remember hearing from D'Antonio preseason was, we have great chemistry in the locker room. And that kept going through my mind when I was watching that. And I got to be thinking that chemistry is starting to weaken quite a bit.
I'm going to tell you this, okay? These kids love Mark D'Antonio. Okay, so I want to make sure it's very clear. No one's out there F-bombing their coach. But I know for a fact of multiple key players very frustrated after the Michigan game because they felt like they didn't give themselves a chance by going with a healthy Rocky Lombardi. Not one of them dislikes Brian Lewerke. Not one of them questions Brian Lewerke. I want to make sure this is really clear. Really clear. But I'm telling you, he has genuinely frustrated players at him because of this.
Yeah, I can imagine so. I mean, you've got to give your players, going into any ball game, they have to be confident that they've got everything in order to try and put a victory on them. And if you don't give them that opportunity, like, love, whatever, with your coach, there's going to be some dissension.
Okay, and I want to read this to you. Okay, I want to read this to you. This is something I got from a player. Said, same thing happened against Northwestern. Didn't make the changes. Same thing happened yesterday. Didn't make the changes. WTF. And I know that you and I are of the same generation, but we both know what WTF means. And I'm going to tell you this, Coach. I'm sitting here trying to think of what I want to say, and I'm just frustrated.
Yeah, it's a frustrating feeling, that's for sure. And watching that ball game and getting, was it under 100 yards total offense?
Yep, under 100 yards.
That is just, in the game, and from a coach's standpoint, the game was so much closer than that to me. They did get yardage on us. The running back did make yards after breaking tackles. We didn't get that. And, if we could have got some spark somewhere along the line, which we did a couple times with fumble recovery, but just a spark that showed the offense could move, I think they could have turned it around. But, if you can't move the ball, wow, that is just that's a deflating thing for the other football players offensively and defensively on the field. So,
all right, so we've talked about the quarterback play, the offensive line. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't think the offensive line was terrible because they were playing such a good front seven of Michigan. I think I'm going to tell you this. I don't think the offensive line was as bad as other people do think. I don't think they were great, but they were playing, in my opinion, the third or fourth best defense in America.
Well, I was going to say this, and I didn't know if you were going to agree with me, but the offensive line for Michigan State is not any worse than the deep offensive line for Michigan. I mean, if you are asking me to choose between those players, I would take our offensive line over Michigan. I think they're better than the Michigan offensive line. I think they're more athletic. I don't know. They're probably just as strong anyway. But the way what Michigan does better than anybody I know is do a little bit more depending on what they have than anybody else. And give me an example of this one. Their two tight end slot offense that they run out of that, and they run that a lot, helps that offensive line tremendously. They're always bringing around on a kick out on an end, or he'll come around to kick out, slip out, and there's a pass there, and or he'll lead around after a pass run option. It's just smart football. And I think that's what we got to start looking at. If we don't have the offensive line and the running game to continue on, I know Purdue is going to be a real tough game. So we're going to have to do a little bit of brainstorming in the locker room on this one.
All right,
Does that
Coach.
make sense to you?
It does.
I mean,
talk about the running backs. What do you think about the running backs?
Well, they got LJ back there, and he started to run, and he started to run pretty good. He's making a few yardage, and then we had Jefferson starting to come on the last few games, and the only thing I can remember Jefferson running is Wildcat, and that, by the way, that Wildcat page in the playbook, that should be taken out and thrown away. Anyway, did we see much of Haywood? I don't remember. I remember Haywood on a jet sweep, I think. But, that offense, it's a pro-style type offense, and it's predicated on the idea that we can run the ball. If we don't run the ball, we can't throw the ball.
Let me just say this to you, Coach. L.J. Scott carried the ball 10 times for 26 yards.
2.6. 2.6 a carry?
No, he actually, but he lost 1 yard, so his net gains was 25. So he had a 2.5 average. Ladarius Jefferson carried it 2 times for 4 yards for a 2.0 average. Connor Hayward carried it 3 times for 5 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Rocky Lombardi 3 times for 10 yards for negative 1.7, but 2 of those were sacks when they were bringing the house. Brian
Exactly.
Lewerke 4 times for negative 2.8.
Yeah.
So grand total of net rushing yards that I don't even want to talk about. It's just embarrassing if you're a Spartan. But the grand total of net rushing yards was 15.
Yeah. Well, there's been some things I've been harping about since the season started on, and Lewerke having problems and the offensive line being decimated by the injuries. They finally started to roll out once or twice, and why don't we continue to do that? I don't know, but you got to start playing the offense game plan. The game plan has got to be developed so that, I don't know if I can say this correctly, you got to give your quarterback and your receivers a better chance. And if you sit back the way you have always been doing it, it's just not going to work. And it doesn't look like it's working to me.
Here's the thing that I don't get. After the game, Mark D'Antonio, I have to be honest, but I'm not being overly critical. But after the game, Mark D'Antonio talked about their down running backs, their down offensive linemen, their down wide receivers. I get all of that. But Lewerke was throwing the ball where they couldn't even catch it. So it doesn't matter if they're a backup.
It wasn't even,
It wasn't close. And then he says, we were competitive. How the hell are you competitive when you run for 15 yards and you only have 94 yards of total offense? You're only competitive because your defense kept you in the game.
Yeah, defense did play extremely well, but they were out there too long. And Willekes had a.
I don't know if you saw my tweet. I don't know if you saw my tweet, but there was a point in the game where I put, if they lose this game, don't blame the defense. It's very evident right now they're physically worn out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I put that in there, and then boom, Michigan goes on and scores 2 unanswered touchdowns and wins. All right, I'm going to ask you this question moving forward. There isn't one person connected with Michigan State that doesn't love Brian Lewerke. Not one. But if he's not 100%, to me, there is no option. You're 4-3 now. You're not winning the Big Ten, which was your goal. You're not going to the playoff, which was a goal. You're 4-3. You put Brian Lewerke on the sideline, and you play your backups. If you don't believe in Rocky, then play Theo. But to me, there's no reason to play Brian Lewerke again until he's 100%. Where am I wrong?
You're not wrong at all. And I think the way that your locker room is going to be right now, I don't think they have a choice. I don't think there's even a remote choice that you don't start Lombardi. If you do, you're telling your players, we're not in it to win it. So that's as easy as it gets to me.
Amazing stuff. He is the great Coach Chuck Grenier. Coach, again, we're talking about the ugly, and we talked about the one good. I thought Brian Lewerke to go out there and continue to fight and continue to play. When as injured as that kid was, I thought, and people have ripped me for saying I thought it was gutsy. I thought it was a great performance. Not a great performance statistically, but the fact that he didn't say, nope, I'm just not going to play. And even though he admitted he was hurting his team, coach wanted him. He did what the coach wanted. I don't. To me, I'm sorry. I'm not blaming the kid for that performance. I'm blaming his coaches.
Yeah. Well, your other good maybe on that one too, if you wanted another good during this game, was your punter. I thought the punter punted well. I think he was under a lot of duress. He almost got one blocked. The snaps were high right. He had a fantastic catch in the one. But if you want to look at it good on that side of the field, that was good. And not a whole lot of other good in it. Willekes was out of his mind. I thought that was probably the best game Willekes ever played for Michigan State. And the defense played more than well enough to win that game offensively. They got to figure something out to move the ball. That's priority one this week.
Coach, last question from me is Mark D'Antonio has admitted multiple times he is not an offensive coach. Those are his words, not mine. I'm a defensive coach. I kind of stay in my lane. Does he need to do what Saban has done and bring in some quality, successful offensive minds as analysts to tell him how to modernize his offense? Does he need to stay the course? And then question B, would you like to see him take an approach like Saban does, where Saban wants about 25% of his staff to turn over every year because he likes to go get guys from other programs that are having success so he can bring in new ideas? Your thoughts?
Well, let me put this thought in your head. John Beilein, Michigan basketball coach, is an offensive whiz. He admits that he's really well at the offensive game, but he said that the defensive part wasn't as important to him. He didn't do as good a job, so he got a coach to run the defense for him, and he just kept his nose out of it. Does that answer your question? I mean, get somebody in there that's innovative, and I know that this isn't all on Warner. It's obviously not on Warner because 225 miles away from the stadium, I'm looking at the TV, and I'm looking at Coach D'Antonio with a play card in his hand, calling plays and making adjustments on offense. So I know D'Antonio is a good defensive whiz. Get your offensive coordinator to let him fly on his own, or get somebody in there. If he doesn't have the confidence on Warner, get somebody in there. Look at the Penn State. Penn State is going to struggle this year. Penn State is going to have a problem. Moore's gone. So they have the best quarterback in the Big Ten, and they're going to lose a couple more ball games because they can't come in with that innovative type of offense to get better scores. So, yeah, I would think that I don't know if you got to go the Saban route and fire 25% of your coaches every year. I don't think that's necessary. They've won here at Michigan State before with basically the same staff. But you do need to let your coaches coach. If you're micromanaging to that point where they can't coach and that's what they're paid to do, then you get your nose out of it. So just do what you're supposed to do as a head coach and don't micromanage. So
Totally
I don't
agree.
know if I've answered your question, but
You have. He's the great coach, Chuck Grenier. Good weeks, bad weeks. He's always here. He's Mr. Reliable. He's old faithful like Yellowstone. We'll be back next week. We'll be back next week. We'll be back next week.